This video is going to be showing you how to use the duelist Neon on Valorant. I'm recording this video a couple of days after her official reveal, and we'll be using playtest footage to show you how to use each of her abilities whilst also giving you information on them. After watching this video, you'll be able to use Neon to her full capacity and help your team secure more wins. The first thing that you're going to want to understand is Neon's role in the team. She's extremely similar to Jet in the sense that her abilities centre around entry. So when playing as Neon, you'll be the person that is pushing bomb sites and entering the location first. Her main ability, High Gear, is a great way to do this. As you'll see in the footage on screen, you'll get a bar that has a value out of 100. This is essentially your stamina bar for the ability. Once you enter High Gear, it will decrease in value but will regenerate once you come out of it. This allows you to sprint from place to place much quicker than you normally would be able to. The only downside is that you are unable to sprint with your gun out. However, once you stop sprinting, you can immediately pull up your gun and it is as accurate as if you've been moving regularly. Similar to how Jet uses Tailwind to burst forwards into sites, this ability can be used to rush teams and catch them off guard. The idea is to move quickly past angles that enemy players will be holding and pick them off immediately. This is also useful for information too though, as you can get a general idea of where each player is just from your sprint into the site. You also have the ability to slide whilst using High Gear by holding down the crouch button. This is great for taking enemies by surprise, but does need to be used right in order to make sure it's as effective as possible. For example, if you slide right into the middle of a site and then immediately stand upright, a player can headshot you as if you just ran in regularly. The way to get around this is to hold crouch after ending your slide, forcing the opponents to lower their aim before shooting. The only counter to this is that the enemy team will be able to hear when you use the ability, so might preemptively lower their aim, expecting you to slide in. But this is still the most effective way to use it. Neon's next ability, Relay Bolt, is perhaps the most important one to get right. If used properly alongside High Gear, you can really disrupt teams that have set up to defend a specific site. Relay Bolt fires a ball of energy that will bounce once, then drop to the ground upon the second bounce. Each bounce will produce an AoE, or area of effect, around it. Anyone within this area will suffer a concussive blast, skewing their sight and their hearing. This can be extremely useful if used correctly. You'll want to line up your throws so that it will clear out any area without you having to peek it. To do this, you can ricochet the bolt off of a wall near you for it to then shoot into the targeted area. However, where possible, you'll want to use both bounces to the maximum ability, by firing off a wall near the enemy to potentially get a double concuss. This will reduce the chance of you concussing yourself and your teammates, which could well be the case if you bounce it off a wall near you, but may require you to peek in order to throw it. However, like any other duelist, if you have good teammates that will smoke the area for you, you should be fine. We managed to hit a few good lineups without spending too much time, so this shouldn't be much of an issue. Once you fired the relay bolt, you'll want to give it a second to release the blast, and then push immediately after. The concussion doesn't last very long, so you'll need to be quick when pushing and making your decisions. Fast Lane is Neon's final ability, and works similarly to Phoenix's wall, except there are two of them that create an alleyway for players to move through. This can be used to safely exit contested areas or move through a site that you think people will be defending. The ability itself is a projectile, which you throw in front of you and will vary in length depending on where your crosshair is placed. For example, if you were to look at Heaven from A main on Ascent, you'd be able to place two walls that go all the way from the archway to Heaven. But if you look slightly down or look at the wall a bit, the walls will be shorter. You'll definitely want to keep this in mind when placing them, as even if they are slightly too short, they could be rendered useless, as they'll expose you and your team moving through. Once the walls are placed, enemies can be highlighted through it using recon bolts. This means that at any point whilst running through the alley, you can exit and take out anyone that you might have identified. As we saw in the trailer for Neon, it would seem like a good idea to combine this ability with others. The example shown was Neon identifying an enemy and sliding out of the fast lane to take them out. What you could also do is utilise your relay bolt, if you have a good understanding of where they are and know that you can hit them directly with it. If you can combine these abilities, then you'll get some very easy picks, and will be able to move your team safely through an area at the same time. The pretty obvious downside to Fastlane is that enemy teams will know exactly where you'll be, so will only need to enter the alley to contest you immediately. It will certainly be useful on some maps, but will take a lot of practice to get right. Neon's utility is called Overdrive, and enables her to shoot electricity from her fingers, which will do a good amount of damage to enemy players. You have the choice of either shooting the electricity single fire, or you can hold down to fire for a continuous bolt. The damage will stay the same on enemies between the ranges of 5 and 10 meters, but will start to drop off when you get to 20 meters plus. For a single shot, anywhere on the body at ranges below 10 meters, it will do 22 damage. which then drops to 20 damage at 20 meters, 15 damage at 30 meters, and then 10 damage from 50 meters. This util is devastating if you are good at tracking. Holding down the bolt deals a vast amount of damage very quickly. So if you hit your shots, it will eliminate people from close range almost immediately. Even at further ranges, it will take out enemies pretty fast. It's a perfect utility to use if you can identify that a team is holding a site. Throw a relay bolt in and then sweep up. As you can see from the clips in the range, you could probably clear an entire team out in seconds. Not only this, but the duration timer resets after you get a kill, meaning that if you use it at the right time, you could easily take out 2 or 3 of their players. Another strength to Overdrive is that your movement speed also increases upon using it. So whilst you're zapping people with your fingers, you can also strafe and evade oncoming enemy shots much easier. This especially helps with the reset feature, as you can move from site to site quicker, making sure that you get that kill to reset the duration timer. Okay, so there are all of Neon's abilities. To best use this agent, you're going to want to play similar to how you would when using Jet. You'll be relying on cover from your teammates in the form of smokes, recon bolts or walls, but you will be the primary entry player, initiating fights and getting early picks for your team, making it safer for them to move through main and into site. The key ability that you'll need to get right is your lineups with the relay bolt. If you know where the other team is likely to be holding or have been holding in previous rounds, utilise your bolt, then give yourself a few seconds to peek and challenge them. As I previously mentioned, be careful where you place the first bounce, as you run a huge risk of concussing yourself and your team if you place it wrong. The main thing to remember when using Neon's util is the timing of it. This is the same for most utils, but especially Overdrive. If you use Overdrive at the right time, it can easily win you a round on its own. If not, flip the tables drastically. If your team has a player capable of identifying where players are beforehand, like a Sova, get them to recon bolt the area and then get some easy kills. For the fast lane ability, remember that you have to aim at the destination of where you want the walls to reach. Like the other abilities, this will work best when used in unison with another. If you're being held and you need to get through a site, activate high gear and throw some slides in there to make sure you get there safely. The walls will provide cover and it will be extremely hard for players to kill you whilst moving. Then with high gear, remember that you should stay crouching when you come out of it to make yourself harder to kill. This will be most useful when entering a site and contesting. Make sure to wide peek and slide to throw the holding players off. But keep in mind that the other team will be able to hear you when you activate the ability, and might preempt a Neon push. Other than that, you can use this to get from one site to another if your teammates need help. Well, that wraps up our guide to using Neon in Valorant. Let us know in the comments if you'll be using her as your main, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more Valorant content. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.